Lawmakers are considering a number of bills this session to consolidate or eliminate some state agencies, boards, and commissions. It's an effort to make the operation of state government more efficient and less costly. In this It's Your Government segment, we look at consolidation that's already taken place, one that rolled 5 major agencies into one single entity called the Office of Management and Enterprise Services.
OMES, the Office of Management and Enterprise Services, wraps a wide range of what its director calls the state's back office services into a single agency employing 1,384 people. Things as diverse as printing, employee insurance, and the motor pool, and the sale of state surplus property and real estate, plus information technology services and security. Preston Dorflinger is the director of OMES. He says the initial goal was to consolidate the state's Department of Central Services, Office of Personnel Management, Oklahoma State and Education Employees Group Insurance Board, and Employee Benefits Council into what had been the Office of State Finance. The intent? Save the state 15% of the appropriated dollars spent to run the 5 individual agencies, roughly $3.3 million a year. In the first year of consolidations, the savings turned out to be much higher, $4.5 million. State Representative Jason Murphy is the chairman of the House Government Modernization Committee.
There is an absolute imperative for us to shrink the cost of government and to make those services more efficient with less administrative overhead and bureaucracy.
OMES is whittling away overhead and bureaucracy by eliminating the need for each state agency to do things like its own purchasing, accounts receivable, and IT services. John Morrison heads up the OMES division that oversees capital assets. He says consolidation brought to light a problem with the way state agencies historically dealt with underutilized, dilapidated, or no longer needed real estate assets.
We've never had a cohesive way of looking at how we plan and take care of the buildings that we have to keep them preserve them as assets. When we don't plan and don't pay attention to the facilities, we get into the situation where we've actually created liabilities. So we don't have a property we could even sell if we do declare a surplus.
Those assets are now being cataloged and evaluated to determine whether they should be refurbished, demolished, or sold.
I think there has been a realization that the model we have been operating under, where how we manage our properties, hasn't been working. And so there are several pieces of legislation moving, and the governor has certainly been interested in, first of all, saying, what do we have as far as real property and assets? And then beginning to suggest that there may be opportunities to flip some of those properties to the private sector or repurpose them or do other things. And so what it's done is it's allowed for a real focus on how we manage all of our properties in state government that before really was absent.
Hi Roy, this is Elise with the help desk as well.
Consolidation is centralizing information technology services for state agencies. The OMES Information Services Division encompasses everything from help desk operations and computer maintenance to a secure data storage facility.
When we talk about security, we want it to be secure if it's at rest, if it's in motion, in other words being transferred somewhere, or when it's in use. And a lot of the data that the state has had historically has been unencrypted in any of those 3 stages. So what we're doing is, by doing this, we're able to encrypt the data in all 3 stages.
50 of the state's 132 agencies already get their IT services through OMES's Information Services Division. ISD Director Alex Pettit says within a few years, all state agencies will.
Initially, we said that we were going to be completed by the end of 2017. Now it appears we'll be done towards the end of 2016.
Centralizing IT services lowers the cost of purchasing software agencies need to run their computers.
We identify or categorize cost savings into 2 buckets. We have cost avoidance and cost reduction. So cost avoidance are things like when the state had 15 different enterprise license agreements with Microsoft, we had different prices that we spent for licenses depending upon the size of the agency and what kind of deal they could negotiate with Microsoft. Now by having one unified license agreement with Microsoft for all state agencies, everyone's seen their costs come down for Microsoft products.
Centralization also lowers the cost of protecting the state's data.
Every agency had their own security solution. And we were spending about $1.1 million a year on all these different packages. And some agencies, in fact, weren't even spending money at all on security. By unifying security in the state and bringing it together as a service and having just one solution for security, the actual state spend dropped from $1.1 million to slightly over $200,000 a year.
It's the type of savings lawmakers envisioned when they voted to combine several agencies with compatible operations into a single entity.